Greetings, friends. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bard as we continue our deep dive exploration into the fantastic classes of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So, my name is Christian. Welcome to 2e's Foundry, and without further ado, Atalo, roll the intro. Now, the Bard is a fantastic class. It is the best buff class that you can get for your group, practically. There is something else I really want to address up front with the Bard, and... okay, I want to tell you a little secret. Some of you, and you know who you are, you can't roll to save your life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Terrible rolls. I've known many of these people. My son is one of these people. Thank God I'm not. I don't know what I would do. But yeah, it's awful, and my heart goes out to all of you. I totally understand, and it's awful. But the Bard is honestly a class, if you are afflicted by this, and you who I'm talking to know exactly what I'm talking about, as do the rest of you, honestly. But you don't have to roll to attack enemies if you don't want to with this class, ever. There are so many spells and so many abilities that you don't ever have to roll to check. You can just, I do my thing, and the enemies make their saves, so it's up to the GM to make that check for you. So, you know, if that's kind of, unfortunately, an area that you're familiar with, I would highly recommend taking a look at the Bard, and we're going to get into why. Now, the Bard is your Occult caster. They are a spontaneous caster, meaning they don't get a whole lot of spell availability, but they can cast spells without having to memorize them. So, huge benefit. They have kind of middle-of-the-road armor proficiency, middle-of-the-road weapon use. Their biggest strength is in what are called compositions. Compositions are a special magic that is unique to the Bard. And there are composition focus spells, there are composition cantrips, and this is really the bread and butter of the class and where they truly shine. The primary one that all bards get and start with is the Inspire Courage. This is a huge area from your caster, and honestly, like, if you have a cleric on your team that's casting Bless, you don't even take Bless if there is a bard on your team. That completely useless spell. Inspire Courage is better in every way. It's giving you plus to hit, plus to damage, gives you bonus to fear. So it does so much more. And you get abilities as you level up to augment this. So you can cast all kinds of different compositions. Now, I will say, one thing that you have to pay attention to is a composition. You may only cast one composition per turn. And if you cast a composition and another one is in effect, the other one shuts off and the new one starts. So be aware of that. Now, there are feats that allow you to have multiple compositions going at a time, so you'll want to probably take a look at those. But for the most part, remember, one composition unless you have an ability that says otherwise. So one of the subclasses, or the subclasses, there are called Muses. And first off, we have the Enigma Muse. You get to add True Strike to your list of spells for free. So that helps because you don't have a very big list. So being able to add one that doesn't take away from that is a pretty big benefit, and True Strike is a great spell. Now, for those of you with the Dice Affliction we mentioned earlier, you probably know rolling 2 dice even then doesn't mean you're going to hit, so might not want this one. But you also gain Bardic Lore as a bonus feat. Next, we have the Maestro Muse. So with the Maestro Muse, you gain the Lingering Composition feat and the Soothe spell. I probably see this one the most, to be honest with you. It really is the strongest. The Lingering Composition is a free action focus spell that you can use. You make a performance check. If you succeed, your composition will go on for a number of rounds without you having to do anything, thus giving you more actions to play with your character and casting buff spells, moving around, hindrancing the enemy. So there is a lot of things that you can do here. And Soothe is the occult casting heal spell. It holds a much different space than the heal spell. The heal spell, we haven't really covered any classes that get that yet, but it is basically regarded as, the quintessential form of healing. What Soothe does, it adds a little more randomness into it. You have a higher dice that you roll for the healing, but the static modifier you get is halved compared to heal. So instead of doing where heal will, the sweet spot is 1d8 plus 8 per spell level, with the Bard, you get 1d10 plus 4 for the spell level. So, as you can see, there is it's a different dynamic. There's a lot bigger swing with the dice and the modifier. Overall, it's not as good as heal, but that's okay. It's not really meant to be competitive with heal. It's just a different spell and something that is awesome that bards can not only provide these amazing buffs to their party, but also be able to heal them. And do not discount this +1 to hit and damage from the Inspire Courage. It is a monstrous benefit. Anyone that's been playing Pathfinder for a while can tell you a +1 is so meaningful. And later, there are feats where you can get a focus spell that you can even augment this. And based on your performance check, you could get a critical success. You could turn this into a +3 bonus or a +2 bonus. So there are options later on as playing the Bard that you will easily be able to turn this into such a huge benefit to your group. And this is a status bonus, so it's going to stack with their item bonuses. So it's, again, just a total better way to get these extra pluses onto your allies. Pause for a second, Natalo. Polymath. Next, we have the Polymath, and you gain the Versatile Performance feat and the Unseen Servant spell. Both of these are very middle of the road. If you have a space for it and you have an idea or it just calls to you, I will be the first one to say you don't always have to do what people consider to be the optimal best thing to do. If you have an idea for your character, go for it. It's your character. If you want multilingual because you want to be able to pick up a few extra languages, do it. It's your character. You want to be able to have that type of agency. And everyone is entitled to have fun in their own way. So as for you do what you want to do. You don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You said, I said so. It's okay. The bards get the occult spell list. One thing about the occult spell list, it's very different from the arcane and primal. So arcane and primal share a ton of space. Occult is very much illusionary, enchantment, some necromancy thrown in, a little bit of fundamental magic, like magic missile, shield spell. But overall, its bread and butter really is the realm of illusion and enchantment. So you're going to find you're kind of a little bit in a weak spot with your magic against things that are mindless, undead, constructs, things like that. So it can definitely be, you have to be a little selective. Now, that said, there are amazing buff spells in here, like haste, and, even the fact that you do get magic missile as one of your first level options, which really, when you boil it down, is honestly one of the best damaging spells in the game. It is consistent damage that, I've seen people cast really powerful spells. The creature sometimes critically succeeds, deal no damage, or they succeed and you're dealing half damage and you're like, oh, I didn't roll that great. And all of a sudden, you're pretty much dealt the damage you would have dealt if you had a successful attack roll on a cantrip, and that doesn't always feel that great. But Magic Missile kind of sets your expectations that you're going to do this very middle-of-the-road damage, and unless they have a couple magic items, there's no way they're going to avoid that. So do not overlook it. But other spells like invisibility And, that heightens amazingly at 4th level. And there are so many great buffing spells. And this brings us back again to that part where you don't need to roll dice. You can cast haste on your group. You can cast slow on the enemy. They make saves. You don't do nothing. You just say, I cast slow. And I'm going to inspire courage. Everyone get a big old buff. And you know what? Maybe you have to make a performance check, which often or not, that DC is not that high for you. So you're going to be able to succeed at that. So you're going to get a huge benefit there. And it's a solid class. I feel like we really don't see enough bards in the games that I'm in or run. They are a solid class, and they are some of the best for assisting your party. They have some tropes in there, the whole thing with the horny bard and stuff like that. But hey, if someone enjoys that, let them. This is a game. It's, if your idea of unwinding is to fool around with make-believe characters as opposed to breaking into the make-believe characters or breaking into their homes and murdering them and stealing their stuff, who cares? Tomato. Everyone's just having fun, people. It's okay. It's make-believe. So, with the various feats that the bards get at going up levels, they get this amazing ability to increase what they do. They get the Dirge of Doom, which allows them to basically just put fear out against everyone in an aura. With the Dirge of Doom, you have this ability that you get to inspire fear on the enemies in an aura around you. That is huge. No one needs to make checks. You can do it every round. It's a cantrip. Now, yes, until you get maybe the feat Harmonized Composition, you could use this in conjunction with one of your other compositions. But Frightened, Fear, that's huge. That is a -1 to literally everything the enemy does, to their saving throws, to their attack rolls, to their skill checks. It's everything. This is a phenomenal spell, and then you can combine it with Inspire Courage when you get if you take the Harmonized feat, which now you can get, not only are they getting a -1, you're giving everyone a +1. That's a total of 2. And then if people get into flanking, the enemy's armor class goes down by 2. That's a 4-point swing against something's armor class. You didn't have to roll a dice. You just said it. That's it. That's all you had to do. So the Bard is just such a phenomenal class. And I know when I do these videos, I'm not here to explain every little aspect of the class to you, but I just want to give you a really great feel of how they play and where they really shine, and not here to tell you to do it one way or the other is wrong. And in the beginning, when I talked about, the different build options for them, the Maestro is the strongest one when you're going into combat. If you are focusing on a combat bard and that's what you want, yes, Maestro is generally the clear choice. But that's not every game. Some games are more political and have lots of other options. So if the others call to you, there's nothing wrong with any of them. They're all good options. True Strike is great if you do not have the problem where dice hate you and you want to get up there and deal some damage. Hey, you can be a fantastic bard that does that gets up in there and fights too. So don't discount that. Great spells. The feat selection for the bards as they go up in levels is also just huge. You get so many focus compositions, and you get more of your composition cantrips that you can just use every round if you wish. It is such a huge benefit to the class and to the party. And bards get a pretty big spell selection, and they're a charisma-based character, so they generally work as the party face. And you can build on all sorts of different directions. If you want to really focus on those enchantment spells like Charm, you could take Bon Mot, and you can inflict that penalty, that will penalty to your targets before you then cast it, or fear them and then cast Charm. Now, of course, there's some things in Charm that might not be the best. DM might say, no, you're taking hostile actions against them first, but meh. Tomato. You check with your GM first. But there's a lot of spells that affect a creature's will, and your ability to lower their will isn't insignificant. It's pretty good, actually. So take that stuff into account and sometimes people are like, oh, it takes a couple of actions to set that up. I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste the actions. But some of those spells, if the enemy gets the failure instead of the success, or the critical failure instead of the failure, it's worth it. I mean, it is totally worth it. So you really have to look at what your character's doing, and don't be afraid to sometimes, try to have fun and set up those combos of getting these things. Okay, first I'm going to lower their will, and then I'm going to go after this spell. Or I'm going to frighten them to get my allies into position, and then I'm going to, use one of my compositions to boost everyone's defense, because when they're frightened, the enemies are frightened, they have a -1 to attack. And then boosting their armor class, you can get that up 1. That's a 2-point swing the other direction instead of attacking. So when you're inspiring defense, that +1 to armor class and +1 to all of your saves, your fortitude, reflex, and will. Huge, gigantic swing. So the Bard is a top-rated class, and any group, I don't know a group that goes, oh, a Bard, we don't need a Bard. I've never heard that said, honestly. And sadly, I just feel like there's not enough Bards being played. Now, I can understand the people that don't. I myself, Bards are not very much my style. I could see myself making a Bard in the right way that would be fun if I was so inclined. But there, unfortunately, as a forever GM, you get to this point where you have so many character ideas that you're never going to play half of them, so you're excited to try out a few of them. So it's definitely something to consider. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this dive into the Bard and a little more exploration of this class. If you guys like this video, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, follow us. I know we kind of slept off last month, and my stalwart editor, Atalo, got me a video because he was on vacation and saying, hey everyone, the editor's going to be on vacation, so we're not going to have anything out for a month. And someone, we're not going to name names, forgot to post it. So, apologize for that, but we are going to be back on our regular schedule. So next up, we are going to have the Champion, and this is another class I don't ever see myself playing. Not to say Champions are not a fantastic class, just not my style, but they are a great class. So I'm really looking forward into this, and one of the things I love about this series is I get to really examine classes that I already know some about, but not a ton, so it's fun for me too. So I really enjoy doing all this for you guys. So as always, you all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.